Welcome, Jake from Medford.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, I'm at my in-laws' house visiting the fam for the weekend. So yeah, but as always, doing the Bible take doesn't matter where we're at.
That's right. Come on. That's right. And dude, I just can't believe well, one, like definite clear connection again to like current events and what's going on, which is kind of wild to me. But also I thought it was, well, I think and I haven't noticed this in the Psalms so much, and I think maybe I don't know if this is a misconception or it's well known, but so many of them that like run together are meant to kind of coincide with one another.
Yeah,
So one, we've seen that several times already throughout, now that we're 53 in. But what's kind of unique and I thought was super interesting is, I was reading a commentator on this one this morning, and it's like 51, 52, and 53 all sort of have some tie together. And that was kind of cool because it was like the 2 days we took off, they're going to be brought in, um, you know,
yeah.
uh, as we get back to it. And then also this is really similar to Psalm 14. And I don't know if you caught that. So I went back and watched our Psalm 14. I was like, oh, we were just babies back then. I think I said like, oh, we're 2 weeks in. I'm like, oh my gosh, now we're like, I don't know, now we're far in. We're almost 2 months in. But one thing, let's see, there's like so much here. Well, I thought it was really cool, again, bringing in like the commentator sort of saying there's really some connection. You can't just read 53 by itself, which makes a lot of sense to me because I was kind of reading it like, okay, like interesting, but like, where is this coming from? And then it's almost like there's like, it doesn't go anywhere too. And you're like, well, that kind of is a real bummer. um, but I loved how just a couple little progressions that this commentator pulled out that I was like, I love that because they were verses that I saw on Friday and Saturday that really struck me. One from 51 in verse 13, where it says, "And I will teach transgressors your way, and sinners will return to you." There's sort of this hope and even this desire that David has to like point people back in the right direction, recognizing his own mistakes, and you know, and then in 52 it's really similar to 53 in the sense that like there's a lot sort of going on around, but then there's this ending of, but I'm like a green olive tree in the house of God, and I
Yeah.
trust in the steadfast love of God forever and ever, and I will thank you forever. Where then 53 is like this total contrast. But what I thought was interesting, and one just last thing I really thought was worth pointing out, I couldn't believe the commentator said this. On 53, he said this line. He says, once again, I need to be careful not to identify too easily with the exploited poor in this passage. And I'm like, oh man, that's such a word for us because I don't know what any Black people are going through. Like, I can't understand their pain. And he was talking about like, um he didn't touch on racial tension, but throwaway children or young men and women forced into the sex trade, like all this evil stuff. Like, we have it relatively easy. Sometimes it's hard to reconcile, what they're seeing, and what they're dealing with. But I'm thankful, and again, we're at the we talked about this at youth one time. We're at the like 10-foot view, and even if you back up a little bit, like tomorrow with 54, we get back to a little bit more hope in the salvation of the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting psalm, and I agree. It's so helpful to look at the flow of the psalms. Um, the thing that stood out to me, I think, is just that I don't like to associate with the evildoer or the person that's in the wrong.
Mm.
I like to try and read myself into the role of the hero or the right guy. And ultimately, I think the most helpful thing, or one of the most helpful things I've heard a pastor say about like just how to read the Bible is always read Jesus into the hero role. You know,
Yeah,
if you're reading David and Goliath, like Jesus is David.
that's
Um,
so good. That's a good helpful tip.
yeah, for sure. And I was just thinking about that, and it says, and I think I commented something similar. I was trying to remember what I said on
14.
14. Yeah, but I didn't go. I should have just went and watched it. But where it says everyone has turned away, all have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. It just made me think of Isaiah 53, and there with in a similar way, with no exception, it says all of us. Isaiah 53. I'm reading verse 6. It says, "We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Sheep are dumb.
Mhm.
Sheep wander off, wander around. We all, like that, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the
Yeah.
Lord has laid on him," meaning the Lord has laid on Jesus, "the iniquity of us all." And on the cross, Jesus dealt with that. And then just turning over to read John 15 right after that. So I read our psalm reading, then I read or went over to the Gospel of John, read our reading there. And it's so cool to me how Jesus, right as he's about to have all of that iniquity laid on him, he describes this beautiful, what in my mind, at least this morning, seemed like an invitation to say, hey, you can come and abide in me. Uh, Everybody has
Mhm.
wandered off. There is none who does good, like it says in the
Mhm.
Psalms, like it says in Romans 3. But man, you can come and abide in me,
Yeah.
and I'll abide in you. And if you'll take me up on this, you can enter into this whole new way. Like we're going to look at after we get off our Bible call, the Way of Jesus series with our
Mhm.
series and everything. We're invited into the way of Jesus, and it's just a whole new beautiful start for us who are born again. And I'm just thankful for that, and I think it's really cool. So yeah, that's what stood out to me, and um, I love what you're saying too, just about man, all of that and tying it into current events, because I think those things are really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you said of we kind of have a choice, and it's interesting because you see in here, those choosing to not to say, look, there, God can't be there. There's look at everything that's going on. Um, and I think when we choose, I love what you said, like Jesus in the hero, when we choose to look at that and look at when we abide in him, um, he's overcome this world. I texted that to a friend this week. It's easy to seem like, man, evil and pain and suffering and all that stuff are winning, are overruling, and Jesus flat out says, like, no, I have overcome the world. And so we can abide and trust in him. I'm excited to talk to some more of our friends, our African American friends, and just kind of hear that perspective, even
Yeah.
that question, what's it like in a time like now to do that?
Yeah, me too, man. It's gonna be
It's
good.
cool. All right, bro. Another good one. 54 tomorrow, and online church now.
Right now, I'll see you there.
All right, brother. Peace, man.